Okay, welcome to chapter 2. In this chapter we will study about the atomic structure in order to understand how substance works. We will use the Bohr atom as a visualization for the atomic structure. Here we can see that there are three components, as you might have seen in a physics class, that for an atom we have three components: electron, proton, and neutron. The core of an atom is called the nucleus, and it is positively charged and has the proton and the neutron. The electrons are negatively charged and in discrete shell. The atomic number is the number of protons, and it determines the particular element. Element in this case is the type of substance that is formed, such as aluminum, copper, and so on. In the neutral atom, the number of electrons is equal to the number of protons. What is a neutral atom? Is an atom that is not positively or negatively charged. Here we see an orbital picture of an atom structure. The outer shell is called the valence shell. Electrons in this shell are involved in chemical reaction, and in metals they account for electrical and thermal conductivity. So we are studying about electrical circuit theory, and therefore we need to understand that the valence shells is the one that contributes to the reactions of how an electrical current can be transfers from one point to another by the property of the conductivity of the material. The neutral silicon atom is shown in these pictures, and there are 4 electrons in the valence shell. Is silicon a conductor, or is it insulator, or semiconductor? Well, it's a semiconductor because it has half property of conductor and a half property of insulator. Depends on the junctions type of silicon atom. We'll study this further on in active component, but for now we only need to understand why copper, for instance, is considered as a conductor, and plastic, for example, is considered as an insulator. If we are talking about charge, we can consider charge as a magnet in which it can repel if it's like, or it will attract if it's unlike. The pictures below shows the likes and the unlike. The force is directly proportional to charge. What it means that the force generated by the charge movement, whether it repels or attracts, is proportional to the amount of the charge. The larger the charge, the larger the force, and vice versa. The force is inversely proportional to square of distance. It just means that the larger the distance between two charges, the smaller the force will be. Here's an explanation about what is voltage in relation with work and charge. It is responsible for establishing a current. So a current, imagine as a stream of water. It flows from a high potential through a lower potential, and we measure the distance between the high and the low potential in electrical as a voltage, and therefore a voltage by definition is the work per charge. Work is done as charge is moved in the electric field from one potential to another. While voltage is the work per charge done against the electric field. Here is the definitions of voltage. V is equal to W per charge. 1 volt is the potential difference voltage between 2 points when 1 joule of work is used to move 1 coulomb of charge from one point to the other. In another way, voltage is responsible for establishing current. Without a voltage, we will not have a current flow even if the circuit is closed. So here's an example of a chemical reaction from a battery or a chemical batteries. In this example, a copper zinc battery, which you might have constructed in a chemistry class. Now we move on to the definitions of current. Current is the amount of charge that flows past a point in a unit of time. So I is equal to Q over T. In units, that means that 1 ampere is a number of electrons having a total charge of 1 coulomb move through a given cross section in 1 second. That's the pictures showing an animation of a single tube passing through a certain section, cross section. An example of questions is, if we have a 2 coulomb passes a point in 5 seconds, what is the current? And the answer is 2 divided by 5, which means that we have 0.4 amp. And then we have another definition, which is called resistance. What is a resistance? Is the oppositions of current. It's measured in ohm, and 1 ohm is the resistance if 1 amp is in the material when 1 volt is applied. So now we can see that there's a relation between voltage, resistance, and ampere or current. The reciprocal of the resistance is called conductance, and it's symbolized by letter G in capital. So G is equal to 1 over R. And the components that is designed for a specific amount of resistance are called resistors. Here's a picture of resistors, a single one. It has a color band to identify the value of the resistance, and inside it there's carbon compositions that form the value of the resistance, and 2 leads for soldering into a PCB. So here's the summary of color band in resistor. You need to memorize this. You can do it in our language, or if you prefer, in English. So here's an example how to read resistance from the printing of the colors. Is here we see green, brown, red, and gold, and therefore we have 5.1 kilo ohm with a 5% due to the gold ring. The next example is 820 kilo ohm, and then 47 ohm, and then 1 ohm. You need to practice by memorizing the sequence of the color, so you can get the first, the second, the third band combined, and the last one as the band or the tolerance for the resistance value. It can also be labeled by its number. directly. So what it means that the value is printed there in the body directly without the color band. And you can see 3 examples here. 22 ohm is written in 2R, while 2.2 mega ohm is printed 2M2, and 220 kilo is printed by 220K. It's easier to read using alphanumeric labeling. Here's another variance of resistor, which is called variable resistors. Why? Because the resistor's value is variable. It can change based on the slider. Usually it has a round shaft where we can twist the shaft to change the value of the resistance. But there's a slight difference in potentiometer and rheostat. A potentiometer has 3 legs, while a rheostat only has 2. Here's an example of a complete electrical circuit systems. In this example, we see a flash with a battery inside, a lamp, and an closed electrical circuit with a switch to make a closed contact or an open contact. The battery is considered as a voltage source, and then a path through the switch, and then the load. In this example, we see the load namely as the lamp itself. Next, we study about the multi-purpose instrument, which is digital multimeter. Here we can measure voltage, current, and resistance, which we have just studied, and other functions such as continuity of a diode, or some multimeter has capability to check transistors directly. We need to recognize safety hazard and know what to do in emergency. Please read and review all the precautions given in the text. Some key ones are electrical. You can get an electrical shock, and once you get that kind of shock, you need to know the location of the emergency shut-off. And we have an electrical fires in the lab, and beware of using jewelry because it can conduct electricity. In our laboratory, we will not work more than 30 volts. So if you calculate the current, it is in between 0 to 1 amp, but it's a current in DC, so it's not very dangerous. It's not dangerous. Okay, next we'll study the terminology in this second chapter. The first one is ampere, is the unit of electrical current, and numerical wire gauge. This is used in American standard to define the diameter of the wire. And then charge, an electric property or matter that exists because of an excess or a deficiency of electrons. Charge, therefore, can be plus if it's in excess or negative if it's in deficiency. An interconnection of electronic components designed to produce a desired result is called a circuit, and a basic circuit consists of three things: a load, a source, and an interconnecting path. Conductance is the ability of a circuit to allow currents, and the unit is called Siemens. This is actually a reciprocal definition of resistance. So conductance is equal to 1 over R. Coulomb is the electrical charge, the unit of the electrical charge, and current is the rate of flow of electrical charge. So you can see there's a word rate there, so it has time in that current. Electron is a particle of electrical charge in matter. The electron possesses a negative charge. The common or reference point in a circuit is called ground, and ohm is the unit of resistance. Potentiometer, a three-terminal variable resistors. The opposition to current, the unit is ohm, is called resistance. Rheostat is a two-terminal variable resistor. Siemens is the unit of conductance. Volt is the unit of voltage or electromotive force. And voltage itself is the amount of energy per charge available to move electrons from one point to another in electrical circuit. So I want you to read each of these terms again and understanding this important terminology as we're going to use them in these courses. Okay, that's the end of the chapter 2 in electrical circuit theory. As usual, we'll do quiz, and then after quiz you can see the correct answers. Thank you for listening with me in this second chapter. I'm Jimmy, and in the next lecture 3 or chapter 3, we'll study more about the passive components, especially in the relation between voltage, current, and resistors. I hope you will join me in the next lecture. Thank you for joining. I'm Jimmy, and thank you